Cyber hygiene is the concept that has been developed over the last decade or so, and it's really been borrowed from public health, right? We have these concepts of protecting ourselves, right? If you are having heart problems, you work out more, eat healthier. And so we apply that same logic to cybersecurity. And so when we're thinking about cyber hygiene, we're thinking about a collection of behaviors that protect us from online risks. And those risks are wide and varied. It could take the form of fraud, it could take the form of different kinds of hacking attacks, unauthorized access to your computers, to your networks, to your different applications, and most importantly, your social media accounts, right? With social media, we specifically see an influx of information, right? People put a ton of information on their social media platforms and don't think about how that information can be used against them later on. And so with cyber hygiene, it's really important that we're taking care of our information and our online presence. And so the same way we think about physical hygiene, we want to think about cyber hygiene. So this could include things like checking on URLs, making sure that if somebody sends you a link that claims to be Amazon, it really is Amazon. Or if you get a link from somebody saying that they need money sent to a Venmo account, that you are actually in fact sending it to the correct account, right? Checking URLs is a really easy way to make sure that you really are talking to the person that you think you are. Another way that we recommend people engage in cyber hygiene is not clicking on links that come from people you don't know, whether it be through a text message, or an email, or even through messaging platforms, right? On social media or encrypted messaging apps like Telegram or WhatsApp. These platforms are a great place for individuals to contact you trying to defraud you or to get information out of you that they can use against you down the road. So making sure that you don't click on any links that come from people you don't know or you don't recognize, or even people trying to pretend to be someone they're not. You may get a smishing text message that's claiming to be Amazon, that your package was delivered when you know you didn't order anything. And so they want you to click on those links so that you can hand over really important information. We also know that storing information is really important, making sure that we're taking care of our passwords particularly. Not only is it important that you use strong passwords, but it's important that you're changing them every so often. There are websites available online to help you see if your information has been accessed illegally or in an unauthorized fashion. And so you can check to see if your email accounts or the passwords you've been using have been compromised. And that's a great way to keep up with that cyber hygiene. It's a way to keep track of the passwords you're using and making sure that you're using passwords that aren't easy to guess. We talk about brute forcing passwords quite a bit in cybersecurity. It's a skill that is becoming easier and easier to do. So the stronger your password, the less likely it is that they'd be able to guess it just by chance. Another thing that we like to suggest to people is credit monitoring. When it comes to cyber hygiene, many times you may not know that you're being attacked until something like a new account on your credit report shows up. Communication that indicates that you have had information taken from you or used without your permission. So if you see on your credit report that you have a new car loan application, that'd be a good indication that somebody's using your information. Especially important if you think your social security number or any financial records have been taken advantage of. We really push people to pay attention to their bank accounts, their credit card accounts, whatever it is that you hold money in, even if that's crypto, you want to make sure that you're checking those accounts and ensuring that they aren't being misused. Another really important aspect of cyber hygiene is public network access. So if you go to Starbucks or to the airport, you may attach yourself to public Wi-Fi, and that puts you at risk because now there are other people on that network that don't have any restrictions to reaching your network traffic. Now you might think, okay, who cares if somebody sees me going on some news app while I'm at Starbucks? But what becomes really important is what you do while you're attached to that Wi-Fi network. You don't ever want to engage in financial transactions on public Wi-Fi, and it's really important if you are going to be doing important things on publicly accessible networks that you use a VPN or a virtual private network. So the last thing you want to consider is how you're protecting the devices that you have. With iPhones, with smartphones, they come with built-in protections, and a lot of Mobile devices, tablets, computers do come with built-in tools to help you monitor the different behavior on your computer. But it's really important that you use those tools, and if they aren't built into your devices, that you provide them. So you may remember McAfee antivirus. That was a really famous one for a long time. If you're a Microsoft user, right, you have Microsoft Defender built in. And so those tools are all going to work similarly in that they're going to look for those intrusion points. Where this really becomes important is communicating about cyber hygiene. When we're thinking about cyber hygiene, it's really easy to say, yes, of course I use strong passwords, or yes, of course I would never do a financial transaction on public Wi-Fi. But what becomes really, really important is that we're communicating that to people in our lives that may not have been taught that, and particularly in the area of children and our elderly parents. They are susceptible to these risks just like we are, but without the awareness that they're being attacked or that they could be attacked, it's really hard to convince them to engage in cyber hygiene. And so if you're talking to people that are older than you that may not have as much experience with technology, you could start with explaining to them the basics of how these devices work, how they interact with the network, and that might help explain to them a little bit about why this cyber hygiene is so important. Now, on the flip side with kids, it's a really interesting mix because a lot of times they're more used to the technology than we would expect them to be. They've been inundated with this technology since they've been born, and so having conversations with them changes just a little bit because you want to not only acknowledge that they may be engaging in things online that you're not even aware of, but that these cyber hygiene principles, not talking to strangers, and definitely not meeting up with strangers, not giving out personal information. This is something that you want to really reinforce with kids because they're growing up in a world where providing personal information online is the norm. They are almost expected to. They're expected to be on social media platforms. And so if we can help them learn how to protect themselves in those environments, who to talk to, who to trust, and most importantly, if they have a problem, to contact somebody. If it's local law enforcement, if it's family members, if it's somebody at school, whoever it is that they can talk to and work through these issues, we can ensure that their information and their livelihood is not at risk.